Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and today is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays I answer your questions. This week we have just two questions. We're going to keep it fairly short. It's going to be a fairly quick video. The first comes from Mike Swintel. He wrote, DC has been putting out a lot of good anime variants. I think Marvel might have also. Have you seen any of those from DC or Marvel? Do you have any? So, actually, I haven't bought any modern comics for the last 2 weeks. I just have been away. I haven't had a chance to go to the comic book shop, and I've been really busy with work. So I've been actually a little bit behind on going to the comic shop. But I haven't actually seen any of these DC anime covers or Marvel anime covers. I heard though that Marvel is putting out ones through with Peach Momoko kind of variants, where it's animation inspired covers. So Peach Momoko, if you're not familiar with her, she did for Marvel. She did Demon Wars. And this is a little example of her work. Which is kind of anime, semi-anime. So yeah, this is her style, and I always find her hit or miss. I do have another Marvel as well that's kind of like computer animation style, which is this one. And this is like Fantastic Four. I got this in a recent unboxing, but that's it. That's all the ones I have to show, because I'm not really sure which covers you meant for the DC ones. I do pick up like the current DC stuff, like Catwoman and Wonder Woman, and sometimes like Green Lantern or Nightwing. I'll pick up a few issues from them, but I didn't see any particularly ones that look like animation style. Also, I pick up Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy as well, but yeah, I didn't really see which ones you might be referring to as anime style. So I'd be curious if you could tell me in the comments below which ones are you referring to. If anyone else knows, you can drop me a link and I will take a look at those covers, but I'm not necessarily familiar with them. Sorry. So those are the only ones I knew about. The next question comes from Collecto6, who's a friend of mine, Steve Gentner. What was the most pages in a comic book? And this question was actually inspired by an eBay purchase that he's making. He's basically, I think, hopefully it's over, the auction's over that he's bidding on, but he's bidding on a Mighty Mouse comic, and it's like a big, thick Mighty Mouse comic. It has like 384 pages. It's just like this massive Mighty Mouse comic. And so he's bidding on that, and he's like, yeah, he's never seen a comic that big before. And either have I, personally. The biggest ones that I can think of are the 100 pagers. And I brought one to show. This is a 100 pager. This is America's Greatest Comics #2. This is actually the first appearance of Steamboat, a character from the Golden Age that was very controversial, considered to be one of the most racist characters ever. But I actually didn't think he was that racist at all. Yeah, a character actually I liked. And not because he was racist, but he's a cool character. This is just a really big book. It's 100 pages, and you can see like how thick it is. It is a really thick book. So you can imagine, and I actually have another one that's really big like this, that's like a couple hundred pages, but they're really thick. It's like a thick book. So, for him to find this one with almost 400 pages, it's a pretty thick, this is a pretty big book. So are there any that are even bigger than that? Well, I did find two. And one was, there was an omnibus of Ex Machina. And it basically collects like 50 volumes in one book. And it's like 1,440 pages. So it's just this big omnibus. But that's not the biggest. So that's the sort of number two. Number one, the biggest comic book ever made was one by Ilan Manuash. Okay, that's the artist who created it. It's basically a collection of all the One Piece stories. So it's, it is 21,450 pages long. It's just so it's just this massive book. They said that because it's so big, like it's just this massive book, that you can't actually read it because it just becomes unmanageable when it's, how do you open up at any particular point in order to read it, because it's just too long and too big. But it's more of a showcase piece. So it's more of an artist piece. But there was 50 of these made, and you could pick it up for, I think it was like 1,700 or 1,900. I've seen various prices for it, about 1,700 to 1,900 euros. So it was just this massive book, fairly expensive book. It sold out, actually. So there was 50 copies made, sold out pretty much instantly. But I'll give you some of the dimensions of this book. It is pretty crazy. It was 4 inches by 7 inches, which is a standard size of a comic. But then it was 31 inches long. So, you can imagine that. That's almost 3 feet long. It's a pretty big book. And it weighed 36 pounds. Now, each one of these books was inside of this kind of, like it's called Echo Chamber ASBL, kind of like a case that it came in, like a binding. It's just like, and every one of them was signed and numbered by the artist. So that's kind of cool. It's more of like something you would use as a display item, and maybe you could, use it as a shelf because it's so big. But yeah, just a really cool book. And it collects all of the stories for One Piece. So if you want to have all the stories for One Piece that you can't actually read, I recommend picking that book up. It's so very strange. So yeah, that was it for this week. That only the 2 questions. If you have a question that you want to ask me, you can put it in the comments below. I might do a second show later today just to kind of balance out the fact that this show is a bit short, where I will do a live show where you guys can ask me whatever questions you want tonight live. Probably I'll air it around 8 o'clock Eastern. So stay tuned for that. So bonus will be live Q&A. But if you want to have your question answered next week, put it in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.